Can everyone see my screen okay? Let me,
Yes.
sorry. Fab, thank you. Let me just, I'm gonna have to just minimize the window because when I do it in Keynote, I end up messing up. So, okay, so an introduction to management systems. So just a little bit about me, because I'm fairly new to the panel. So I spent 20 years of my working life in an FTSE 100 corporate world, FTSE 100 company, corporate world, typical, as you'd imagine it, trudging in every day, wearing a suit, sat around board tables, and worked my way up through the company into senior leadership roles. So I've got a vast experience of people management, of performance management, but then some of the senior roles that I was in was around sort of managing fairly big functions that covered an employee population of 35,000. So quite large scale and very specifically around management systems, a certain discipline of management systems, but the principle is very much the same. So I've designed management systems and then I've created a complete end-to-end audit function that provided assurance to the board of directors, and which is basically looking back and slicing through management systems. So that expertise really has kind of brought me to where I am today. Added to the fact that, as Paul said earlier, I'm a creator, but like Paul's creative flair is completely different to mine, which I find super interesting when you get into wealth dynamics. My creative flair is around seeing the best way to do things. So it absolutely drives my family mad because I'm forever correcting people and getting them to try and change the way that everyone does things, because I just look at things and I can see efficiency and I can see better ways of doing things. So I kind of bundled all of that together, and as I said earlier, I started off my property business and completely felt like, in a way, a bit of a fish out of water. So when I first started, I came from a half of my life was spent in the corporate world to be in a one-man band, and built my network up, met great people like Paul Million, which has been instrumental in the journey of where I am today. And and then I realized that I had all of these skills and all of these experiences that could really help people. So as such, I sort of started as I said, Hive Creation last year. And the transition of the transition of setting up the business and working with Paul and working with my other clients has been all around how to extract all of that corporate big business knowledge and skills and create something, create learning materials, create systems, create methods that help small business owners get the benefit of some of that big business way of working, but on a small scale, because obviously it doesn't directly transfer. So I've been the sort of conduit between. And I think that one of the things is people understanding what management systems are. So there's a lot of buzzwords, systemization, all kinds of stuff that's bandied about. And I often think that people don't really understand what that means. And why should you? If you've not worked in that area and people are using all these buzzwords, people don't really understand it. A lot of the time they think it's IT systems, they think it's a platform that you manage something from, and that's part of it. So I kind of put this little intro to management systems together a few months ago to share with some of my clients. I also shared it on our Live with Hive that I do on a Wednesday. And so the purpose of this is to break it down, a little bit of theory and a little bit then of how you can apply it in your business. So, oh, the screen isn't moving. There we go. So management systems. So I'm going to look at what they are, why they'll transform your business, and how you can build one. So a little bit of theory and then taking it through to the practical. So if we start with just the plan for this session, we're going to do, like I said, we're going to do a little bit around theory, and then I'm going to talk to you specifically about what is in a management system. Like what are systems? What are they made up of? I'm going to talk a little bit about why bother. So what's the benefits of having systemization in your business? and the process for you to get there. So how you can build that in your business practically. So I'm going to start by breaking this down to the simplest level. So the first stage of this is thinking about what a system is. And the best analogy that I use is probably not the best analogy to use. I should probably find a better one, really. But I use the Big Mac. So the Big Mac, most of us, if you've never eaten one, you at least know what a Big Mac is. And whether you're in Manchester or you're in Barcelona or you're in America somewhere, a Big Mac is a Big Mac. And if you start to think about the infrastructure behind that allows a Big Mac to be a Big Mac anywhere in the world, you soon realize that what makes that happen is systems. So it doesn't happen by chance. There is a massive operational framework that sits behind the usually minimum-ish wage person handing over the counter this Big Mac burger, whether it be in Barcelona or Manchester. And it's, you know, a collection of various systems that kind of make that happen. So I probably used a wrong analogy there. I should probably pick a Rolex or you know, some kind of fancy car or something, but I just like the Big Mac because it's nice and simple. So thinking about what a system is. So a system is basically just a way of doing things. So breaking it into its component part, it's an end-to-end process to do something. So for example, the way that generally most of us make a cup of tea, you know, we have a certain way of doing that every single time that we do it. So we create a system. Systems are part of our everyday life, not just in business. So a single strand like that is a system. So in summary, it's a way of doing things. It's a method, and we can apply it to lots of different areas of life and business. So what is a management system? So this is where a management system is more a business term, really. So it's, you know, in your business, if you like hold regular meetings, if you set reminders in Asana, if you set reminders on Post-it notes, if you have written a step-by-step of how to do something, it can be really simple. It doesn't have to be complex. A management system, it can be formal and it can be informal. There's lots of, you know, different elements that go into a management system. So in summary, a management system is lots of different ways of doing things that are all bundled and linked together. So a system is the one strand, and a management system is all of those things collected together in a way that helps everyone understand what it is that they need to do. So what is the best way to structure a management system? So when I said I was back in the corporate world, the discipline that I particularly worked on in the latter part of my career was the health, safety and environment function. So you can have in a business, you can have a safety management system, you can have an environment management system, a quality management system, operations system, resource management, sales and marketing. But if you have lots of different independent management systems, what you find is that it gets a little bit confusing, especially in small businesses. So in big businesses, what happens is you create what's called silos, where you end up all operating really differently. In a small business, it feels like there's too many things to look at. There's so many different places to look at for all of your information that you get a little bit lost and a little bit stuck, and it slows progress. So the best way to create a management system is integrated. So to have everything all in one place as much as you can. There's always compromises that you need to make. You can't always get everything, but I work with my clients to get as much as we can into one place, and that just enables better operations of the management system. So so in summary, I like to use the analogy of an engine. So a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially new starters, and the Paul Millions of this world, Paul absolutely craved structure in organization. So that's probably a little bit wrong. What I mean is, if Paul was working on his own, he knows what he wants, but he struggles to get it. And there's a lot of people out there like that. They know that they want it, but it's too difficult for them to do themselves. So a lot of the times I hear, a little bit of feedback that says, I like not having a plan. I like working a little bit chaotically. I like, seeing, it's exciting to see, not know what you're doing from day to day. And they think that a system makes things too rigid. So the engine analogy that I use is that if you imagine an engine, it's full of really solid pieces that hold everything really tight and really structured so that you can have moving parts. So you can have moving parts in a business, you can be entrepreneurial, and you can take chances, and you can, take risks and do things that aren't planned. But to have a big section of it that's got the steadiness and the stability will really help support those elements that need to be fluid. So next, we're going to look at what is actually in a management system. So what does that actually look like in real life? So it breaks down into different sections is the best way for me to summarize this. So there can be lots of different things that fit into a management system. So we'll look at the first bit, which is how to do things. So sorry, I've just got somebody ringing me. I'll get rid of that. So so how to do things. So the first thing is written processes. So methods and ways of doing things. A really, really important component to this is a process of how to write a process, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But if you can create a consistent way of your business writing processes in a certain way to cover certain things, it really helps with the consistency and the application. So another thing that you might find in a management system is a process flow chart. Often I like them linked into the written processes. So the processes that I write include written format with various bits of information in, and a process flow, and then more writing and a process flow. But you can have them completely separate. It just depends on the process. How-to guides. So it sounds a little bit like a process, but actually isn't necessarily a process. It's just a guide that could advise a certain member of your team or certain section, certain department of how to do things to a certain way, to a certain standard that you set. So rhythms and frequencies. So this is talking about when we do things and how frequently we do that. So there might be a certain activity that's done daily. There might be something that's done at the end of the day, there might be something that's done at the end of the week. There might be a summary that's pulled together in the month. What a management system does is define this for you so that you can create this rhythm, and you can create a way of operation that just begins to work really seamlessly, like producing a Big Mac. Accountability. So this is huge. When you start a small business or run a small business, and maybe you're on your own, maybe you've taken on a couple of assistants, maybe you've got a little team, a big team. If everybody just went about their business just doing the things that they think that they should be doing in the best possible way that they should, it doesn't really create the right layers of accountability to actually get things done and to take it forward and to move it forward. So a system, because you define what's supposed to be happening, automatically by default creates accountability weaved right through your operation for you and for your team. So the last one is responsibility and accountability. So if within the processes that we define, we should be talking about who needs to undertake a certain activity. So responsibility is who is going to do it, and accountability, who is responsible for that. So where does the buck lie? Where does it stop? In small businesses and startups, it's often you that play both of those roles, but as you begin to expand, so for example, my assistant, she has a lot of responsibility for doing a lot of my day-to-day tasks, but ultimately the accountability stops with me. As my business scales and I, employ directors, for example, then a degree of the accountability can be offset through that. So that's something else that you would find within a management system. So then just moving on to the next section, which is tools and resources. So these are the kind of things that, again, that you might find in your management system. So you'll have forms in there, so standard forms that everybody uses for certain activities. In a property business, for example, you might have a deal analyzer, or in other businesses, but specifically thinking about property businesses here, this is the tool that you would use to create consistency of approach when analysing a deal. References and links. So we, in Paul's business, for example, we set up a project management system, and within the different tasks within that within that system that is rolled out every time that Paul does a commercial to resi project, within that we have all of the references and the links built into that. So for example, if he needs an ecology survey done, it's got who we use, where the website is, how we engage them. If we need a bat survey doing or something along those lines, all of those things are all there and referenced, and the information is building up, so it makes everything easy. Contacts. So this might be where you have people's who you would use, for example, for the bat survey, all the contacts, all of the different service providers that you might use, all of the different procurement routes that you might use. So just a whole range of different contacts and people that are linked to the business. CRM systems, again, something that's really important in most of your property businesses. This is where, this is a CRM is a fundamental part of your management system, as are the pipelines that generally that would go down. So standard for a lot of my clients, we build CRM systems for property finding, for investor finding, and for tenant finds. So we have, those are the kind of three main groups that we have for CRMs and pipelines. Client and customer record keeping would all be included in the management system. A structure for documents, usually the thing that people really struggle with. Paul Million's OneDrive was, it still gives me headaches and nightmares thinking about it when I first went into that business, but we've got that all structured and shipshape now, so that if someone needs a document, we've stored it in a certain way, we've filed it in a certain way. And then something else that's really important with document structure is file name conventions. So, for example, people have a habit of just chucking a load of photos up. Well, if you don't know what they are and you need to find one of them, it can be a real pain if you don't sort of label the file correctly. And filing conventions allows you to sort things really quickly. So I won't show you now, but if you looked in my filing system, you'd see things like the way that I do it is like a certain description, if it links to a certain product. So we've got our ultimate accountability product, I've got one-to-one clients, etc. So it breaks it down which part of the business that links to, and things like dates are written backwards so that they can stack accordingly. So document and file structure is quite important. And learning and development. So this is a really big area that I work on with my clients and the businesses that I work with. So getting structure and organization around yours and your team's learning and development activities. A lot of people fall into the trap. I've got another learning session actually that I did on Live with Hive that might be useful to do in the future, which was around translating those training courses that we've all been on into actual tangible business benefits. So the learning and development work that we do within the management system is about making sure that the time that you're investing in these activities are helping taking you towards your goal. So we keep structure around that and records, and in certain cases, certain learning and development records are really critical because they link to compliance. Procurement, so a procurement section of your management system. So if you were purchasing for a refurb, set up a little procurement catalogue. think about where you're going to buy those white tiles from, how much they cost, how much it is per tile, so you can get the best value. You know, who are your preferred suppliers, all of the details of that, all in one place, really. Another part of management system is thinking about quality, so building in elements that help to make sure that even though you're doing all of those things, you're doing it to the required level. So this is where we set standards. So it might be something like a service level agreement. We get back to clients or potential tenants or customers within a certain amount of time. You know, we turn around email responses within this date. We make sure our accounting is done by the end of the week, whatever that might be. The standard of service can be weaved right through the whole of the management system. A biggie for me is legal requirements. So I often find that a lot of small business owners aren't even meeting minimum legal compliance in a lot of areas. So this is something where I really encourage everyone to get really clued up about what they need to do. Health and safety is the one that is a little bit close to my heart for various reasons, because I know about it, but because it's the stuff that can really devastate lives. And you know, I've got some horror stories that I won't tell today where that's really happened. So the legal requirements is super important. And strategy documents, so you know, understanding where it is that you're trying to get to. You know, a lot of us are trying to build businesses that we think that we want £10,000 a month or £20,000 a month to support X lifestyle. But actually, when I do the work with clients, more often than not, it is around time freedom. So understanding that you want time freedom allows you to build your business in a certain way. So getting to the root of the strategy and the direction your business is moving in is a really fundamental part of the management system. And linked to that is business plans. So business plans, yeah. Quarterly business cycles is what we work to. As if we'll be able to tell you about that. We've got that working really well in the program that I work on with him. And then goals and targets. So all of this stuff is just making sure that you're heading in the right direction, you're doing it properly, you're working to a certain standard, and you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. And then lastly, this is what I call governance. So governance for me is the bit where you make sure that the business is performing as it should do. So metrics and measurements are something that would be in that. So KPIs. I did a session on KPIs on Live with Hive this week. If anyone's interested, it's in the community to look back on. But understanding what it is that you're measuring so that you can hold yourself to account, really, and make sure that you're on track to achieving your goals. Another part of governance for me is meeting frameworks. So it sounds a bit ridiculous when there's just you and your business, but it works. You know, certainly as a bare minimum, if it's just you in the business, a weekly planning meeting is, you know, the bare minimum that you should be doing. But then we should also be doing like monthly reviews. And when you get a team, or you work with business partners, or you work in strategic partnerships, you know, those regular meetings and understanding what they're there to achieve is really sort of quite critical. And then assurance. So the assurance is just providing the feedback to your you know, to your business and to you that you're on track and you're getting where you need to get to. So so why bother? So this is just the reasons why management systems are, you know, a good thing to have in your business. Sanity. That's the first one, because there are so many of my clients and potential clients that come to me at breaking point because they haven't done this early on. So I think in Clubhouse yesterday, the question was asked, when should you start building systems? And I kept my mouth shut, and every single one of the panel said, as soon as you can, because I imagine that some of them, maybe all of them, learn from making the mistake of just going at it, holding all the stuff in the head, and then needing to take on people and take on a team, and not having the systems in place, and then having to retrospectively fix that, like I did in Paul's business. So if you can do that from the beginning, it helps with the sanity. But if you have got to that stage, putting the systems in really does dampen down some of those feelings of overwhelm. Efficiency, it does make your business more efficient. I can guarantee that you will do things more slick and more quickly. It then becomes a routine. Remember the rhythm I was talking about? If you know what you're coming in to do on a Monday I do these tasks, on a Tuesday I do these tasks, this is what my team does on a Wednesday. Those routines are really fundamental for keeping that engine turning really effectively. So it sets standards, sets and maintains standards within the business. It means that you're operating to a certain level because that's just how we do it. It improves performance. So the efficiency and everyone knowing what they're doing and not having to come in and think on the feet means that improved performance is just a byproduct of having that. It elevates the business owner. So a lot of the time, a business owner is entangled in the operation of the business, but by creating operational frameworks, that allows them to elevate themselves through the operation and sort of stand at the top rather than being right in the thick of it in the middle. It allows growth. So growth is helped massively by having a framework around everything. You'll hear so many times, people talking about their experience whereby they got to a certain point in their growth journey and they just, had a breakdown, imploded, really struggled. So building the framework gives you a great springboard to grow from. It makes recruitment and team expansion easier if you've got everything in place and you know what you need people to do. It increases the value of your business. So anyone that wants to sell their business really has to fully systemize it. If they don't, there isn't many people that would want to buy a business whereby they stepped into the owner's shoes that was entangled right in the operation. So, a byproduct is that it does increase the value of your business. It creates consistency and control. It increases visibility of information, of data, of how things are going. It improves your management of risk because you've got a better eye on everything and the way things are running. It creates a better customer experience. The end user is the one that benefits as much as the business owner. It looks more professional. You just come across in a better, more professional way if you are systemized. And there's clues. So all of the biggest businesses in the world wouldn't use systems and processes and operational frameworks if it didn't help them achieve what they needed to achieve. So how do you build one? So this is just looking at the process to get you there. Oh, I've knocked that off. Hang on 1 second. So the bad news is that you will never fully finish creating your management system. But the good news is that's good. Whenever you create a system, the first time you create it, it's only ever version 1. The real magic in a system is then the evolution of it. So the tweaking and the improving and evolving it with your business. So you're looking for a state of continual improvement. It's something that's weaved right through all of the ISO standards. So I'm not making this up. We should be looking to start it, create it, and then always look to kind of improve and build on that. So what are the different stages then? So the first bit to creating your management system is to decide on the platform where you're going to host that. So do some research before you start off on this. It's a real pain if you build a management system or the start of a management system and then you think, ugh, I've made the wrong choice. I do hear this a lot of time. I hear people say, I've started using Trello and it just doesn't work properly. So there are tons of options out there. So make sure that you do the research. The other bit for this is try to get as much as possible in one place. Think about what I was saying about the integrated management system. If you can get a system that does a whole load of different things all in one place, it just makes the end use of it so much better. And if you make the wrong decision, it's not the end of the world. You can change it. It's not, you don't have to stick with it forever. These things evolve and change. I've done it several times, so it's not always perfect. The next bit, which often baffles people, is get a big piece of paper and a pencil and scribble down, all of the different all of the different elements that you want to create within your management system. So it's so much easier to do the design outside of the IT framework. If you get into doing things in the IT framework and then you want to change stuff, it's so much harder to change that than it is to rub it out on a piece of paper and rewrite it. I absolutely love post-it notes, whiteboards that you roll off the roll and stick on the wall. They're literally everywhere in my office. And, you know, it's really helpful to kind of map that out. The other bit on this is don't do it in one sitting. Like, it's really complicated to map out all of the different things that you need to build. So don't expect to do it in an hour. Like, you know, do it over a period of days, over a period of weeks. Keep coming back to it, keep adding it. Think about things. Things always kind of come to me when I'm like driving or loading the dishwasher. So, you know, build it up over time. The other thing that I say is that I work on 5 key business departments. Whenever we work with clients, we always build the infrastructure around this. So the first one is marketing and sales. The next one is operations, and then financial management, legal, regulatory and standards, and team. And if you cover those 5 business departments, even if it's just you, if you start thinking about what goes into those different areas, you'll get a full broad picture of all the different things that you want to create around them. Okay, sorry, I'm just checking my notes, make sure I don't forget anything. Yeah, and if you don't get everything down on the first version, don't worry about it. You know, this is an evolving platform, it's an evolving system. You know, you're not going to get this all in right on the first go. It's a, you know, it's a work in progress, and it, you know, just make a start with it. So the next bit, once you've mapped out all the different pieces that you want to build, you then need to project plan it. So think about the order that you want to do this in. This is going to take some time. Like, please don't ever try to do this in a short period of time. Please don't ever try to do this in place of actually creating income for your business. You know, we've got to get a real good balance on how we do this. So plan it over a decent period of time that is manageable and reasonable for the evolution of your business, and only you will know what that pace is. When we think about you know, what would we do first? So the first thing that you should be doing is thinking about risk. So if there are areas of risk currently within your business, you should prioritize those, and we should be thinking about the likelihood and the severity of that risk in order to say, is it a big enough risk for me to do something about it really soon? So that development should really come at the beginning. The next bit I'd say would be to look at any challenges. So the stuff that causes you headaches every day, generally it's like really crappy admin stuff like bookkeeping or receipt management or something. So yeah, challenges is next, and then lastly, thinking about opportunities. So once you've got the problem stuff out of the way, then think about the areas of development that are going to provide you with the great, you know, the biggest opportunities, and then the rest of it can just come whenever it naturally flows. And then the next bit is build. So only think about the bit that you're working on right now. So you've built the plan, you know you're doing this first, you know you want to create this form, you want to create this process, you want to design this deal analyzer, you want to build your procurement catalog, whatever it might be. Just think about that one, otherwise you'll get too overwhelmed. You know, what's the analogy? You know, you can't eat an elephant whole, you've got to do it one bite at a time. This is what this is like. It's a big project, so don't overwhelm yourself. Same as above, you know, build out the little section on paper first, and research it thoroughly. Make sure that you know what it is that you want to build, you know all of the, you know, you've got the information in your head to feed into that, and then just start constructing it. And you know, once it's built, then move any data, any existing records, whatever it is that you've already got, like files, documents, whatever, get it all put into that particular bit of the system that you've built, and then bin the old stuff. Get rid of it, burn it, shred it, whatever. You can't go back on it then once it's done, and then use that particular part of the system religiously and move on to the next development. So just finally then, so build it like it's not you using it. So don't make assumptions. When writing your processes, detail them as if it's for a new starter, as it probably will be at some point. Remember, you want to build the system with your future business in the front of your mind. So you're not building necessarily the system that serves you, or the process that serves you today. You're already thinking in 12 months, this is where I'm heading to. So therefore my system should include that, at least in the thought process of how I'm going to design it. It saves you reworking it further down the line. Also, don't forget, it doesn't have to be you that builds it. So use an assistant. If this isn't in your flow, there are plenty of assistants, virtual assistants out there who will be able to do this for you with, you know, a certain degree of direction. So just remember that if you can't do it and it's not in your flow, then it doesn't have to be you. It's not the end of the world. You can still achieve the build of a management system with the help from others. So in summary, you are building, in creating a management system, you are building the foundations of your business of the future. It is really well invested time. You're creating a business hub for you to operate from, a flight deck, all of your information, everything is going to be there and visible. Build as much quality as you can into version 1 of every component that you can. It'll last longer while you build the other bits. So like the first thing that you do, just make sure that you do it really well, because you will get to the point where it'll need to be updated. You'll use it and you'll think, this bit doesn't quite work, I need to tweak it. So invest the time in doing a quality job in each one of those steps, because you don't want to get a certain way down the line and have to rework the last 3 elements that you did. So try and put some time in invest the quality in the initial design. And it allowed a good, thorough, a good, well-built, well-designed management system allows you to plan, to implement and control your business much more effectively. So it is really worth investing the time in doing this, but just build it up. I describe it as layers, literally 1 layer at a time, one small layer. And before you know it, you're stood on top of those layers and you're kind of at the top of your business, looking down on everything working like clockwork. So that's me done. I don't know whether I made good time with that. I'm sorry, I think I went over a little bit, so apologies. But yeah, so thanks very much for listening. I'm just trying to work out how to stop the share.